All right, we want to get the latest now on the manhunt for those two escaped prisoners in New York. The investigators still combing that wooded area after some DNA evidence was found earlier this week. And then there was also talk of some personal items being left behind as well. Let's go to Anna Werner with the latest.
We've obtained the voluntary statement that Gene Palmer, the corrections officer who was arrested last night, gave to New York State Police. The statement dated June 20th. And in the statement, he's asked questions and responds to questions from police. And he says that in the statement that he provided several things to Richard Matt and to David Sweat, the two escapees. He says that he gave Sweat the following tools: a pair of needle-nose pliers, a flathead screwdriver, and that on May 29th, Joyce Mitchell left a package for him to give to inmate Richard Matt. This was the package of frozen ground beef that prosecutors and investigators had said inside was hiding tools that Mitchell was providing to Matt. So he describes in his statement, when he is responding to questions, how he, on May 29th, Joyce Mitchell gave him this package. It was over a pound of frozen ground beef, 12 inches in length, 5 inches in width, 2 inches in height, packaged with white styrofoam and plastic saran wrap, and along with it were 2 tubes of paint, and that he then, on May 30th, went to the freezer, which was located in the tailor shop, and retrieved the bag, approached Matt, who was locked in his cell, and gave him the hamburger meat through the cell. Recall now that, again, the district attorney has said, and the attorney for Gene Palmer have both said, that they do not believe that Palmer was aware that the tools were inside the frozen ground beef. But this gives us more details on what, directly from Gene Palmer, on what exactly happened and when. So again, May 29th, he says Joyce Mitchell giving him this package, gets put in the freezer. May 30th, he goes then to give it to Richard Matt, a frozen ground beef package. According to Palmer's attorney and according to the district attorney, with him unwittingly handing him these tools.
Joining us now to talk about this more is criminal defense attorney Randy Zelin. Randy, thanks for coming back to us.
Thank you.
So this is a really interesting case, this corrections officer, Gene Palmer. What's the deal with, his lawyer says he didn't know that this was going down, but what's the deal with burning all that artwork and burying it? Doesn't that look, I mean, incriminating and suspicious?
Very often it's not what we do that gets us into trouble or creates that real problem for us criminally. It's what we do afterwards. Because what we do afterwards gives everyone else a window into what we were thinking when you don't know.
Right.
And you try to divine what I was thinking. So yeah, certainly the question of intent and what he was aware of and what he knew becomes problematic for him based upon, if you're trying to destroy the stuff, why would you do that?
So we're probably better off that he didn't try to do that, in other words.
Well, look, you always think in terms of what would someone who truly didn't know that they were doing something wrong, how would they react in a given situation? So, yeah, if you don't get rid of the stuff, if you don't burn it, you don't destroy it, that's more consistent with, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, because if I thought I was doing something wrong, what's the first thing I would have done?
Right, Randy, and it's interesting, as a defense attorney, don't you think that this exposes real significant problems within correctional facilities in New York State and perhaps in other places? Because you can go and say, look, if this was a tacit understanding between corrections officers and inmates that they sometimes don't run things through the metal detector, sometimes they give them tools to allow them, and everybody knows that, including the warden. And so how can you blame my client for doing something that resulted in an escape, two convicts escaping, because this was sort of tacitly approved?
Well, you have a couple of things going on. First of all, the defense of everybody else does it, so doesn't that make it okay, doesn't work. In my business, there's the saying, it's never a problem until it's a problem. I can't tell you how many, for example, stockbrokers I've represented back in the days of the boiler room. With everybody does it. Well, how did I get caught? And one FBI agent actually said to me, it's really a game of spin the bottle, and the bottle ended up on your client. But you raise a great point, because everything, the curtain gets pulled back on Oz, and we're starting to find out what goes on. I read accounts of you can have sex in the prison, and there are places to go where nobody knows, and stuff gets snuck in. And it's not the stuff that you see on Goodfellas where you think that only happens in the movies. It happens in real life. And we are now learning it, and learning it, unfortunately, because you've got this celebrated escape now, which is becoming just... It's like a train wreck. You can't turn away from it.
Right.
So looking ahead to the day that we hopefully catch up with David Sweat and Richard Matt, their attorney or attorneys, how do you defend them?
They have nothing to lose.
Yeah, right.
What are you going to do to them now? Now, it really begs a couple of questions. First of all, how is this going to end for them? If they have, well, let's take a step even further back. You were assuming they're going to get caught. So far, they haven't gotten caught. And an argument could be made that every day that they don't get caught, I mean, assuming they haven't stopped to high-five each other because they still have Obamacare and they're still going, don't assume that they don't get away with it. And if it turns out that they do get cornered, how does it end? Are they going to go back? Do they have anything to lose by saying, you know what? Let's do a Butch and Sundance on this. We're going to go out in a blaze of glory.
Is going after Gene Palmer, is that a way, does that send a signal that the authorities really don't have a clue where these guys might have gone, what their plan was after they left the prison, after they escaped?
Not necessarily. First of all, you want to arrest everybody and just start shaking.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
See what
falls out.
That's not necessarily a sign of desperation. That's just good prosecutorial tactics, good law enforcement tactics. But you do have a couple of other things going on which may not be spoken about so loudly. Number one, it does send a message to, as you said earlier, what goes on in the corrections institutes. Hey, guys, girls, you better stop whatever it is that you're doing, because this is how you're going to end up. So there is that not-so-veiled message to everyone else. So you're going to see, in all likelihood, a real change in the day in and day out of what goes on behind the wall.
Given your experience and just your gut feeling on this, do you feel as though that we could see more arrests of prison workers?
The elaborate, yes, I should answer the question first. The elaborate nature, what these guys accomplished, how they did it, I would not be surprised if this becomes the domino effect. And this one's going to talk about this one to get a deal, and this one's going to talk about that one to get a deal. And yeah, whether or not it leads to these guys' arrests, I don't know. And right now, to me, it's who's going to buy the movie rights?
Sure does play out like one, doesn't it?
That's for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Randy Zelin, thanks so much. Appreciate you spending some time with us.